Hi, it's good to meet you again in this fashion. And today I thought we will take some time to reflect on Psalm 13. Psalms 13 is a lament psalm of David. And this is what David says in the psalm. How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? Look on me and answer, Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death, and my enemy will say, I have overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fall. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. Now, when you read Psalms, out of the 150 Psalms, about 70% of Psalms are what we call as Lament Psalms. Psalms in which the psalmists are pouring out their emotions and their cry before God. Now, these psalmists were absolutely real with their emotions. When I read Psalms like this, it tells me a few things, both about God and about the psalmist themselves, in this case, David. Firstly, about God, that God is so amazing that He's willing to listen to your true cry. The way you feel when you express that to God, just the way you're experiencing it, with all of your, cry and desperation and frustration and sometimes even anger and emotion, when you outburst that in the presence of the Lord's character is large enough to absorb them because He's a loving God. So it tells me something about God's ability to just listen to His children who are pouring out their feelings before Him. But it also tells me about the confidence of this psalmist and the transparency that they had. These psalmists were not sanitizing their prayers like we do in our modern life. Where we say something with our lips but experience something else in our hearts. If you're like me, grown up in a church culture which is very formal, and then you probably will feel like how I felt growing up many times, that I can't be real in my prayer because then people will think I'm not being spiritual. So it tells me about this psalmist, that they were truly spiritual in the sense that they were not just whining before God, They were not just complaining for the sake of complaining, but they had that willingness to be real with God because God knows us anyway. And they were pouring out their deepest emotions before a God who's able to absorb their true self. Now, coming back to Psalm 13, what is David actually saying in the first few verses? He asks a few questions to God. He says, how long? How many times he says that? 4 times in the first 2 verses. How long will you forget me forever? Have you ever felt like God has forgotten you? Well, David felt like that. And you're not alone in this. And it's okay to say that to God. How long, Lord, will you forget me? Forever. It may feel like God has forgotten you forever. Sometimes it may feel like God is hiding Himself away from you. And David felt like that. He said, how long will you hide your face from me? And when you have these kinds of feeling, your thoughts can really, really torture you. And David was saying, how long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? Have you ever wrestled with thoughts and with sorrow deep in your heart? And have you ever felt like those that are the enemies out there. Not that you should have your enemies, but those that don't believe in God, those that make a mockery of your belief in God, those that are opposing God in one way or the other, who might be saying, look at you, your God is unable to help you. And David felt that pressure. And he said, how long, Lord, will my enemy triumph over me? In the sense that they will say, look, you're being overcome by your troubles, by your sorrow, by your problems. And they will rejoice in the fact that my trust in you has gone in vain. And David cries out to say, God, look on me. Give light to my eyes. And that verse just stands out to me, my friends. Give light to my eyes. It is so easy when you experience a world full of sorrow, an experience that is filling your heart with more and more sorrow. It's so easy to get in this cloudy perspective of life where light is limited because we don't see anything apart from our problems. And David recognized that, and he says, God, give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death. In other words, he's saying, God, help me to see what you see. I'm unable to see anything positive in this sorrow-filled life. Give light to my eyes, O Lord, or I will sleep in death. He says that genuinely. And my friends, today as you focus, perhaps you are already realizing how your life is filled with pain, with sorrow. You know, we're living in this world that is going crazy with this pandemic. I've been calling this as a global suspense, but this suspense is becoming even more personal. And I know for many, many of you, you have lost your close family members and friends. I have lost close family members and friends. I know the sorrow that might be overwhelming you. I know it's overwhelmed me in my own life. And somebody rightly described this to be a tsunami of grief. It's not just news that you see on a regular basis, but this news is something else. It's filled with that kind of, problems that's mounting up by the minute, and it's not fun. And maybe you're asking this question, how long, Lord, do we see this disappointing news? How long will this go on? How long will this anxiety last in this world? And if you're like David, I would encourage you to just pour out yourself with all your raw emotions. But David recognized that his hope is always in God. He was a master of self-talk. And so now he says this to himself towards the end, but I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. Lament, or the practice of lament down through the centuries, is a tool for us to be able to journey from darkness to light, from hopelessness to hope. That it is when we come to this God who is allowing us to pour out our emotions in front of him, just the way we feel. You know what happens in the process? We are moving from a state of hopelessness to a state of finding our trust in this unfailing God, unfailing love of God, that God is a good God, that in the midst of all that is going wrong, that we have a right God, a God who's able to intervene in our broken world. May I encourage you to be real with God today. Don't sanitize your prayers. Don't just say some words that you don't mean. Don't just say some words that you somehow think that because of your nice words, God will listen to you. God wants to listen to your heart. So say what is on your heart and be real with God. And you will find but extremely therapeutic. And in that, God will meet you and take you from darkness to light, take you from hopelessness to hope, take you from a sense of defeat to a true sense of victory. Because when you see God that way, God will bless and hear your prayers. God bless you.